The quest for a phone that has everything you'll want keeps getting interesting. Earlier this year, we talked about the Google Pixel 3a and how the device gave you everything you needed, and then we crowned the OnePlus 7 Pro as that phone that turned those needs into wants, as you were getting a ton of bang for your buck. Then came the OnePlus 7T, a device that was nearly as good as the Pro, but that shaved the price and killed some curves, and focused on nailing the sweet spot of essentials that even competitors had a hard time at matching for the value. For a bit, I did call that as my favorite OnePlus, but it turns out that it isn't the best one, or should I say, it isn't the most future-proof of the bunch. Meet the OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren. Clearly a mouthful of a name, but with a relevance that's almost as imposing. See, the promise of 5G has been quite the topic in 2019, and yet if you want to jump on board, this limited edition variant is actually one of the most powerful and least expensive ways to get there. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is our full review sponsored by Surfshark. Throughout the year, I've been testing 5G in different cities, and the experience has been hit or miss, depending on the US carrier and where you are. And it makes sense. 5G is still in its infancy. US carriers need more time to deploy it. So it didn't really make sense to pay $1,300 for a 5G phone back then. But if I told you that this 7T Pro McLaren retails for $899, that changes the premise entirely, even if you didn't care for 5G. The unboxing experience is as interesting as McLaren phones have been for OnePlus in the past. I really love this accent of carbon fiber and the papaya colors, and then once you open the box, you're greeted by the phone, and then at the bottom you've got literature, the Warp Charge 30T adapter, a SIM ejector tool, the braided USB-C to USB-A cable, and then in a very secret compartment at the bottom there is this very nice case that's obviously in McLaren fashion, though you don't see the arch that we saw in the whole experience last year. Visually, the 7T Pro McLaren looks pretty much like the 7 Pro. Same curves at the back and the front, and same hefty design that's really borderline substantial for my taste. At the back, we have that McLaren art that we saw from the 6T, matched with that papaya color in the accents and the camera hump, and also the mute slider, along with that black shiny border that I really like. It is quite the fingerprint magnet, so this is one of those situations where I do prefer using this phone with the case that's bundled. The added grip makes handling this large phone less of a problem. Internals bring a couple of changes that help this phone stand apart, not just from competitors, but also from other OnePlus devices. We have a new Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 Plus matched with 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of UFS 3.0 storage, there's a 4085 mAh battery, support for the crazy Warp Charge 30T adapter in the box, Wi-Fi AC, Bluetooth 5, 5G, and this phone is splash resistant even if you don't get an IP rating. The display is a 6.67-inch diagonal AMOLED panel with 90Hz refresh rate that made its predecessor famous. I do notice an added kick in brightness though, which is a great addition that wasn't really my favorite in the previous Pro. It supports a video enhancer mode, reading mode, and the night mode that we've been accustomed by OnePlus for years. Like in the case of the 7 Pro, there's no notch to be seen thanks to the selfie camera pop-up, with results that we'll be discussing further along. And yes, you do get the dual firing speakers that make the content consumption story better. A lot of the fluff of the 7 was removed in order to shave the price. Sadly, I can't say never settle because there is no headphone jack. Hardware is definitely something this phone does right, so long as you're okay with the heft, but that's really just quarter of the story. Now, one of the things that OnePlus does better than even Google is software in some cases. OxygenOS continues to reign supreme as my favorite Android user interface, and yet there's really not much to report on. If you've been following our videos on the OnePlus 7T, the experience is pretty much the same. The differences are mainly the fact that this being a McLaren special edition, you do get the option for its icon pack, the papaya orange theme for the accents, along with some really awesome wallpapers. Other than that, the features that we've already praised from OxygenOS are all here, from the new reading mode with enhanced chromatic options, to the more extensive options for Zen mode, to the dark mode which beat Google to the punch years ago, to the fact that all animations are nearly inexistent, and ensuring a timely launch of Android 10 in the process. There's a reason why this phone continues to be my favorite user interface. As for the experience of using this phone on a daily basis, the road to 5G is rather interesting, where all you hear is the term 5G, but very rarely do people understand what's really available today. On the whole, 5G is a combination of a couple of things. All of them are 5G, but very few people know that US carriers haven't really deployed every single piece of the pie. See, there's AT&T, which claims 5G evolution, and let's hope it does evolve because it's currently making every other carrier's LTE look better. There's Verizon, which took on millimeter wave, which gives you blazing fast speeds, but so long as you're standing in the right place and don't move. And then there's T-Mobile. The company claims that its 5G works all around the United States at the moment, but there's a very interesting catch. See, this is the low-band flavor of 5G, which does penetrate walls better than most, but not at the same speeds. My time with the OnePlus 7T 5G McLaren has definitely proven that. I tested it in Maui for some decent speeds, but then I've been testing it in different parts of Texas like Houston for some good and meh results. It's definitely more reliable than other tests that I've conducted from competitors, but this is clearly just the first step for T-Mobile. It is better than LTE, but not really by much for now. A great way to take advantage of these added 5G speeds is if you match it with the power of a VPN. I believe that everyone should have a VPN for a ton of reasons, and a very affordable, practical, complete solution with added benefits is today's sponsor, Surfshark. It's just $1.99 a month, and the benefits begin with allowing unlimited multiple connections at once, which I haven't seen any other VPN service provide. A VPN allows you to connect locally to different regions so you don't have to worry about your favorite Netflix series being blocked in your country. You can even avoid price discrimination by companies who bump the prices of plane tickets or hotels depending on where you're browsing from. And then there's browser security, which is a huge issue everywhere. And Surfshark allows you to not just encrypt your connection, but to multi-hop and use two different servers for encryption at the same time. For half the price of a latte a month, I don't know of any other VPN service that offers so much. I definitely recommend you give Surfshark a try. Follow the link in the description below and enter promo code Pocketnow. You get 83% off and 3 months for free. Now, if you were expecting for this phone's battery to take a major hit given the 5G capabilities, actually that makes the conversation even better. OnePlus has been really legendary about their battery life, and this phone is no exception. I'm able to end the day just fine and sometimes have enough charge to continue the following day, haven't noticed any overheating issues, and even if your usage is strong, you've got Warp Charge 30T. I mean, you're pretty much covered. Calls are good. I can't say that I notice any improvements here. I actually even think that it still uses LTE for that connection. And I think that's the same story if we were to talk about the camera experience. The specifications haven't really changed much when compared to the 7 Pro or even the 7T, which we talked about recently. The primary camera, the telephoto, and the ultra-wide are relatively the same, but now we have that added motor that enables the macro capabilities. The resulting photos are good. If you're looking for a phone that doesn't overdo colors and provides good enough saturation and contrast, this one does a really good job. You have the versatility of choosing whichever focal length you want, and really my only complaint is the direct jump to 3x optical zoom. I tend to prefer 2x for street photography. Now, I will say that this macro mode is kind of epic. It's incredibly useful to get some really awesome close-ups, obviously so long as you have enough light. As for the opposite, OnePlus has made some tremendous improvements in nightscape. Skies are dark with little to no grain, and its ability to pull out light from dark scenarios is actually really good. Selfies and selfie portraits are okay, probably a little too soft for my taste given all the megapixels on this sensor, but for some they'll be good enough. Just keep in mind that you won't be able to edit these after the fact if you're choosing either standards or selfie portraits. Really, my pet peeve with OnePlus lately is its oversaturation of video. I mean, stabilization is good, but the color you should have gotten on photos you actually get on video. And it's really also just unfortunate that with so many megapixels in the selfie camera, well, you're limited to 1080p video. Hopefully, the company figures it out on a future update because the hardware capabilities are pretty much here. To conclude, I think it's important to go back to that initial premise from the beginning. Yes, we do know that 5G is in its infancy, so we don't blame you for not caring to upgrade just yet. But we also know that a lot of you don't upgrade your phones that frequently. So that's really where this OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren makes sense. Even if you wouldn't care about 5G, this phone stands on its own. It's gorgeous, powerful, well-equipped, has decent enough cameras, and I mean, yeah, it does also support 5G along with the latest standards of LTE. At just $899, which is far less money than other flagships without 5G, it's definitely a huge reason to consider upgrading to this particular phone. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that holding on to a phone for 4 years doesn't bring much of a difference, but that hasn't necessarily been true in the past 5 years. LTE has advanced into different categories, and now we've also got 5G. I feel that the best investment is in a device like the OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren, where you've got a great phone that's also ahead of the curve. What are your current thoughts on the state of 5G, T-Mobile, and the OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren? Chime in the comments, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Also follow me on my personal handles to see me playing around with these phones. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.